Hi SharePoint Knowledge Agent, we barely knew you. But hello AI in SharePoint, the new platform-wide approach to infusing AI value into the most important part of the Microsoft 365 Copilot data layer. At Microsoft's recent celebration of 25 years of SharePoint, we saw what I think many would describe as an AI relaunch to update the way Microsoft's most important data layer for Copilot presents its AI services. In this video, I'm going to consider what was announced, what really changed, and what it should mean to businesses and users embracing Microsoft 365 Copilot. Keep watching to find out. My name is Nick DeCourcy. I'm a Microsoft 365 consultant who specialises in AI adoption for small and medium-sized businesses. I'm also a Microsoft MVP for Microsoft 365 Copilot. If you're interested in keeping up with advancements in the AI space, make sure you get subscribed to the channel and drop this video a like so you see more from me in the future. And if you're interested in working with me, check out the links down in the video description to get in contact. SharePoint turning 25 is a big milestone, and Microsoft celebrated it not only by focusing on how we got here and the participation of the broad SharePoint community, but also where we're going in an age defined by Copilot. As everyone would suspect, the answer is more AI. SharePoint is the foundation for Microsoft 365 and for Copilot. It was stated as the most used grounding source for Copilot requests. Yet many organisations still struggle with SharePoint adoption, and for many of those now focused on Copilot, this has meant pouring hours into correcting shaky foundations built over the course of those 25 years. At best, SharePoint is an amazing differentiator for Microsoft, the data vault for millions of businesses, an equivalent of which AI competitors like Anthropic or OpenAI could only dream of. But at worst, SharePoint is an anchor where past mistakes constantly resurface as an excuse for AI-related missteps. Did Microsoft manage to thread this needle? There's a lot to unpack from the 25th birthday celebrations, but in large part, I believe that we are now making bigger strides in defining and enabling SharePoint's place in future AI success than any time in the last 3 years. Let's break this down as 5 distinct takeaways. Goodbye Knowledge Agent. Those of you who saw my earlier video digging into the detail of the SharePoint Knowledge Agent preview will know that I found its feature set to be too broad and pretty confusing. I'm glad to see that it looks like those involved in product naming at Microsoft agree, as Knowledge Agent is going away, and in its place we get a clean AI in SharePoint. In terms of expressing a set of rather tangentially connected AI features, this naming makes rather more sense than Knowledge Agent, so I wholeheartedly agree with that change. But I am somewhat confused by why this product wouldn't simply be known as Copilot in SharePoint to align with the AI story being told everywhere else across Microsoft's ecosystem. AI in SharePoint is another broad set of features touching both end users and those more concerned with SharePoint as an enterprise data platform. We'll come to both sets of those later in the video. It was announced as entering preview on the day that the celebration event happened, but it's important to recognise that this is simply an evolution of Knowledge Agent that was already in preview since September 2025. While I'm supportive of the name change, I am a little dubious of renaming an existing preview into another preview product. This upgrade deserves a big splash, and the audience for a public preview is always going to be smaller than if the rename also included a transition to general availability. Another embrace of Claude. It's no secret that I'm a huge fan of Claude, and I've been really enthused to see its growing integration into Copilot services, despite this integration at times being somewhat confusing. If you're interested in that background, I'll leave a link to my video detailing that Copilot and Claude journey down below. AI in SharePoint becomes the latest service from Microsoft to embrace Claude, and because old habits die hard, it's also the latest Claude-related announcement to come with some somewhat confusing caveats. If you head over to the Microsoft Learn page focused on turning on Knowledge Agent, you can see 2 big changes. First, Knowledge Agent is now mostly replaced by the term AI in SharePoint. But also there is now a new dependency on Anthropic models. This was not the case for Knowledge Agent before. Since the start of 2025, access to Anthropic models has been the default for most tenants since Microsoft enabled a data subprocessor agreement that made being opted in standard for that kind of service. However, there is a huge subset of tenants who are not opted in by default. All tenants in the EU and UK, I think government tenants and sovereign cloud tenants, are also part of this group. So what happens if you were opted into Knowledge Agent Preview, but you're not opted into Anthropic? The answer right now seems to be that you are SOL. Now, I have to add that in the AMA following this announcement, the Microsoft team did acknowledge the need to work out this issue before AI in SharePoint goes GA at some later date. But for now, this does reinforce the point that even if Microsoft increasingly talks about previews like production features from a marketing perspective, from a risk angle they remain in a different league to generally available features. And from a broader perspective, if model choice simply becomes a two-tier Copilot experience, then I think the cost probably outweighs the benefit. Beyond that though, if Microsoft can work out the compliance issues related to Anthropic model selection, I believe that Claude offers a great deal to Microsoft 365 users that the GPT-5 family of models does not. What's new in AI in SharePoint? Many of the capabilities in AI in SharePoint are a direct port from Knowledge Agent. Right now, there's no indication that features like document library organisation are changing because of this rename, and because a capability like that is built directly on top of SharePoint autofill, it seems unlikely it's been re-engineered for Claude. But it is important to consider where this existing feature sits in the bigger push of AI in SharePoint. Since mid-2023, we've been listening to Microsoft tell us how getting SharePoint and OneDrive data in order is crucial to making Copilot work. And while this is entirely correct, it's also one of the clearest technical areas where Copilot could be both the means and beneficiary of that solution. Knowledge Agent shone a light on what that could look like with library organisation, and this direction is now expanding with custom skills in SharePoint. An example given during the event was renaming files along naming standards, requiring the SharePoint AI agent to both have access to make the changes to the files and an understanding of these conventions. This is also the most logical place where a Claude dependency makes sense, as how this feature is described aligns really well with Claude's skills. On top of this, we saw new capabilities around governance and compliance from SharePoint Admin Agent, allowing us to check boxes both for AI and SharePoint, improving core information architecture, and driving safe adoption as we move that data layer underneath Copilot. This approach of using AI to enrich and fix the data layer AI then uses to give better, more valuable responses is so sensible it should have been a core part of Copilot from day one. Yet this is an area where Microsoft still clearly has the potential to eclipse its competitors, as even if you are using SharePoint as a data substrate for other AI services, better accessibility and search is going to help that use too. In my view, this focus on using AI to make the data better is the most important element of Microsoft's more integrated approach to these services. More and easier content. Whereas better organisational help and governance tools make a huge amount of sense to me when it comes to what we want AI to be doing in SharePoint, capabilities that are solely about reducing the friction in creating content are a tougher sell for me, but are an equally important part of AI in SharePoint. New tooling will make it possible for users without any real knowledge of how to build sites or pages in SharePoint to do so, and capabilities such as turning natural language into a list are part of this package. I'm sure these tools will speed along the work many involved in managing SharePoint sites do now, and allow new users to add value here too. However, I do have concerns. Years of seeing SharePoint clutter that one day someone thought was a good idea, and years later haven't been looked at since, leads me to think that we are just once again lowering the barrier to entry in building noise. There is the opportunity as part of this broad AI refresh across Microsoft 365 to embed best practices alongside technology so that it isn't just about making the creation experience easier while relying on human factors to make guardrails work. Don't get me wrong, some users will make really impactful use of these capabilities. I'm just worried about the majority who find them, that based on all evidence most of us probably see, who won't. For many businesses, new is just a band-aid on top of not being able to find or implement or adopt existing. And while the foot on the gas new can create is sometimes the right answer, often the better answer is just that the existing option needs to be more accessible. This is the reality that AI in SharePoint is trying to dip its toe into, but in a product where what most organisations need is for Microsoft to just go head first into embracing it. Other important feature updates here include a completely new user experience for SharePoint alongside communications integration into Viva. This is a full-throated redesign of SharePoint for this AI age, the first of this scale since 2016, that goes well beyond just a bunch of new AI features. What didn't arrive? We are now nearly 3 years into the Copilot journey, and this renewed focus on SharePoint, not just from the perspective of AI features that deliver value to individual users, but capabilities that boost SharePoint's value as a data source for AI, is refreshing. But every day I continue to chat with clients and their users for whom data surfacing and integration is an ongoing problem in their Copilot adoption journey. This trajectory is undoubtedly positive, but it has been somewhat slow. It is only very recently that Copilot has truly got visibility into custom metadata in SharePoint, despite this being the best practice approach to information architecture in SharePoint for years. Access to list data is still coming online, despite SharePoint lists being a somewhat primary Microsoft 365 experience for a while. Services like Claude Research Mode could go off and hunt through 300 plus websites, yet in capabilities like SharePoint agents or notebooks, I'm limited to adding 20 data sources from SharePoint for grounding purposes. And WorkIQ promises to fix some of these issues in theory, but there isn't any technical explainer under the marketing message to convey how this is different to the very step-by-step level of data integration that's been going on for the last 3 years. Copilot was somewhat conspicuous in its absence from this update. Why AI in SharePoint and not Copilot in SharePoint? Whatever the AI tooling giving us the ability to organise the data layer is called, the foundational need for an AI built on Microsoft 365 to see and understand everything a user can see within Microsoft 365 still remains. We are much further forward on this than we were 3 years ago, and this update does seem to deliver progress on this path, but there is still a journey to finish, while competitors like Anthropic and Google seem to be speeding up, not slowing down. So, happy birthday SharePoint. I'm excited to see what your new AI can do, but more excited to see how you continue to build ecosystem-wide AI integration for the future. Do you agree with my takeaways from this event and the direction of Copilot as it relates to SharePoint? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Thanks for watching through to the end. I hope this was useful to you. Until the next video, bye bye.